We're not letting up. Thank you.
For more on the war between Russia and Ukraine and the controversy surrounding it, I am being joined from the United Kingdom by a lecturer of politics and international relations at the Liverpool Hope University, Dr. Bola Adediran. Good to have you join us.
Thank you for having me.
So it's almost 2 years now. So far, Ukraine has lost several territories, recently lost Avdiivka, but has also shown an ability to retake territories. We've seen a failed counter-offensive from Ukraine last year, but we've also seen a major blow to Russian military. What's your understanding of where this war is headed, and where has the balance of power shifted?
Yes, it's been 2 long, hard years for Ukraine. And as you rightly mentioned, initially, there were some gains that Ukraine made in the later parts of 2022, but those gains have now, it appears that those gains have now been lost. 18% of Ukrainian territory is now in Russian hands, and the latest one is Avdiivka, as you mentioned. I think where the state of affairs is that the fact that the U.S. at the moment is currently struggling to pass an aid budget to supply military equipment to Ukraine has definitely undermined Ukraine's war effort. Ukraine is currently battling with scarcity of ammunition, especially artillery shells, and this is giving Russia much more confidence in taking the offensive to Ukraine. Additionally, you can also see that Russia has ramped up it's put its economy on a war footing, which means that it's ramping up production of artillery shells, it's ramping up production of airplanes. It is also getting a lot of support from Iran, from North Korea. In fact, North Korean ballistic missiles have been used against Ukraine, and Iranian drones have been very successful against Ukrainian defensive positions. So at the moment, it appears that Russia is really getting getting an upper hand amidst the sort of the downturn in the Western support for Ukraine.
And what you just talked about in terms of the its aid, sending aid to Ukraine, whether from US or Europe, and how difficult that has been, is what I really want to talk about. Because I spoke to an analyst yesterday who is a professor of peace and democracy, and he seemed a bit optimistic, especially in terms of financing. And I want to ask you the same question, if you're optimistic. How long can Europe and the US sustain such financial support for Ukraine? And it is quite draining, if I might add.
Well, I have said it before. The ultimate question has always been, how long can the West really hold its support for Ukraine? In the short and medium term, I think it might be able to. So the Republicans in the U.S. House of Congress are holding on to passing a budget that does not include measures that support border defense measures within the homeland. So at the moment, that is what is holding this particular aid budget that is supposed to go to Ukraine. So we expect at some point that will be resolved in favor of aid going to Ukraine. But there are still fundamentally, there are still individuals within the House of Rep in the U.S. who are fundamentally opposed to adding more money and sending more money to Ukraine. And we are beginning to see those first evidences of crack within the U.S. political establishment in terms of the support for Ukraine. The other angle to this is that if Trump becomes president in November or in January 2025, I will know that Trump is very reluctant in terms of providing support for Ukraine. That changes the whole dynamics. The other aspect of it is that even without Trump's presidency, how long can Western support continue for Ukraine, especially when Russia is willing to go the long haul with it? Partly because Russia feels that Ukraine is a strategic national security to it, and so I am not sure that the Western support can hold on for too long in the midst of economic downturn, particularly in UK, where there has been a slow growth. And there is also concerns about just funneling money to a war that is most likely going to be lost. The last point I want to mention is also of critical importance, which is that European population, there is a recent survey that came out that said European population are unconvinced that Ukraine can win this war. And we know that with democratic societies generally, there is always a sense that leaders of democratic societies feel the pressure take the temperature from their citizens and reflect that in public policy. So if European citizens are unconvinced that Ukraine is going to win this war, we might begin to see that in terms of how European states continue to provide at least the kind of support that they've given Ukraine over the last 2 years.
It may also reflect on domestic policies in this country. Some of these countries are going to have elections very soon. You mentioned US already. UK is also around the corner. But I also wanted to talk about whether you think that Russia is also waiting this out to see who wins the election in the US, because that would also determine how far it goes. Then I also want to ask you what happens to Europe if Ukraine loses this war.
If number one, to the first question you asked, I think Vladimir Putin is playing a very interesting game. Because in his interview with Tucker Carlson about 2 weeks ago, he said he does actually prefer Biden because Biden is I mean, to put it very starkly, Biden is not only credible but is more stable, as it were. And obviously Trump is, what we know about Trump is that we don't know which direction he might tilt. So he did say that he would prefer a Trump presidency. So I don't know how that figures into his calculation, as it were. But I think Russia has always been playing the long game. It's understood that it can exercise strategic patience. It also understands that this is of existential importance to the Russian nation. If Russia loses influence over Ukraine, it means that Ukraine falls within the NATO and Western axis. It means that Russia will be almost successfully encircled because Finland is now part of NATO and it's on its borders. You have Latvia, Lithuania, and some other countries, Poland. All of these countries that are part of the Baltic states and that used to be part of Russia's influence are now NATO members. So he understands that this is one of the last bastions of influence that he can exercise within its borders. And I believe that he's willing to take the long haul. In terms of your second question about, sorry, could you remind me of what the second question
The implication for Europe if Ukraine were to lose this war?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. If Ukraine loses this war, I think that EU understands that it will embolden Russia furthermore. We're already seeing that some NATO countries are beginning to ratchet up the rhetoric. A couple of weeks ago, we had a senior member of the UK army basically saying that the UK's army is not prepared for a war with Russia, and almost suggesting that if it's possible, we might be thinking of drafting people. I mean, the UK government came up to deny that. But there is a sense that this is one of the most difficult and most challenging and dangerous times for Europe. And I think that what we will see over time is either a greater effort towards meeting Russia's aggression. And that's what we're going to be seeing if Ukraine loses this war.
And as you assess all that's going on at the battlefront and the front lines, rather, what will it take for this war to end, and how much longer?
I think that this war is going to go on for longer than we expected. This year, we're already getting feelers from Ukraine's top military officials saying that it's going to be a year of basically holding on to defensive positions. They are not planning any offensive at the moment. In fact, they are thinking that the next round of offensives will probably come in 2025. So they want to hold on to territory as much as possible. And it's already a war of attrition. Both sides are losing large amounts of soldiers. What I think is going to happen is that what really determines where this war would go is if Western support really plummets significantly, and Ukraine loses a lot of territory and a lot of soldiers and a lot of support, then it might be willing to perhaps think of entering into a deal with Russia. The other factor that is rarely talked about is what happens to the Russian president. There has been report that he is critically ill, that he is suffering from either Parkinson's or a severe dementia or something, and that if perhaps something were to happen to him, that could change the course of the war. So I think that in some ways that is one part of the equation that is rarely thought about. That the presence of or absence of
Vladimir Putin. But that's a big if, and so he's running for election next month. That's March. We'll see how things play out. A war of attrition indeed. Always a pleasure to speak with you. I'm Dr. Bola Adediran, lecturer of politics and international relations, Liverpool Hope University.